Nicolas Cage is probably one of our generation's definitive actors.
Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. It's your main man, Andy Gillard here. Hope you're all keeping well right now.
Buonasera, everybody. Matt Guy here. Hope everyone is splendidly umptious.
And that's what the quality of this video is. Or not. Yes. Hello, everyone.
I did fear for Stu when we watched this YouTube video because, it's not even for 80p, is it? Let's be honest. I could just imagine you were getting quite antsy watching this. I hasten to use the word TV film because it's not even that, is it?
I couldn't watch it on the telly. What I had to do, I had to put it on my tablet and then put my tablet 6 foot away from me, just so that it looked like some kind of semblance of people and not a blurry, terrible mess that it is. But it got done. That's the main thing.
Even if you Google this thing, the pictures aren't any better. The pictures are clearly just screen grabs from this TV film, as it's called according to IMDb. This is the only remnants of this show. There's no you can't find anything on Wikipedia about it or anything. It doesn't seem to exist outside of this YouTube video of it. And weirdly, when we started this podcast in 2020, this wasn't even on Nick Cage's IMDb list. It's only in the last 12 months or so it's randomly appeared from 42 years ago.
It's a bit like when that the American version of Red Dwarf appeared out of nowhere, the pilot for that, and it was awful.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was another one of them things that people heard about it at the time, but then it just surfaced. Where these things come from?
Yeah, I remember seeing it on one of the Red Dwarf Smeg Out videos or something. There was a clip of it, and then 20 years later, all of a sudden, the whole fucking episode's available on Kazaa to download.
It's like what happened this week, the infamous 2006 E3 press conference from Sony when PS3 was unveiled. And then it's historically accurate, and it was giant enemy crabs behind him. But it's never been on video before. There was handheld footage in the crowd. It's talking 2006, so it's not really phone age. And then all of a sudden, No Clip put the full HD video up of it this week. Where's that been for nearly 20 years?
Incredible. It's like every now and again there's a rumour about the Owen Hart death. That surfaces, there's a video out there and apparently someone's got hold of it, and we keep hearing about it. I'm certain that there must be forces at play that have been recording our history and just keep dropping it in every 20 or so years, just something random for us. This one, as I said, this didn't exist on IMDb. I didn't know that we would have to watch this, and in retrospect, I'm not sure we should have bothered, if I'm perfectly honest, because he's not in it a great deal. So it's called The Best of Times. It was a backdoor pilot for a show called The Best of Times that was put out in 1981. It was up against something called... Oh, God, I've lost it. It was a show starring Sarah Jessica Parker, her from Sex and the City, and apparently it was this massive sitcom in the States that she was a part of in the 80s. And they put this up against it, and that show just trounced it, so it never got picked up. And having watched it, I sort of understand why. So, according to Letterboxd, this is an ABC pilot starring 7 teenagers in an 80s style laughing. It told the light and dark side of teenage thoughts with dancing and singing added in for colour. Yeah, so it's basically... So a laughing, apparently, is what the Americans call a sketch show.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'd never heard of that term in that. I think laughing was a show that was on years before. So when Americans say laughing, that's what they mean, is it's a sketch show. Right. I don't know how I've made so many fucking notes on this because it's 48 minutes long. Ah, right, okay. So this show film pilot thing opens with Crispin Glover looking more normal than I've ever seen him before. Like the actor Glover now, he's only associated with playing quite wiry, weird, unusual, almost inhuman characters. But here at 16 years old, he looks like a normal child. Kind of weird. So yeah, as I say, the best of times. It's a series of skits, seemingly very loosely connected. The first skit is Crispin looking through his filthy pigsty of a room, and then introducing us to his friends. His best friend Nick. Oh, everyone's character is the name of the actor. Like they didn't even bother. Yeah, his best friend is Nick. Cage is there doing push-ups in tiny, tiny shorts, looking quite ripped. Nick is Crispin's best friend because would you want to tell him he's not? Kevin, he's a ladies' man. All he needs is a lady. Julie, everyone thinks she's cute, including Julie. David, he's busy. He does school and 3 part-time jobs until he knocks over a stack of beans that he's been working on, and now he's only got 2 part-time jobs. Lisa, she's a sweetheart who works out a lot, but working out makes her hungry, so she's going for a run whilst demolishing a chocolate eclair or something. Jill, isn't she pretty? She's the most mature. And Janet, she's 14 and really wants to be in a band. Now, Julie, Jill, and Janet, I'm not being funny, but if I was writing a script, I wouldn't have 3 female characters in it, all with the same first initial. Like, that's just too confusing when they're all sort of interchangeable teens. It's kind of bad planning, that one is. Crispin explains that they're nice, normal kids who are treated like faceless members of society. Parents bug us at home, our teachers hassle us at school, and when we drive, the cops are always on our backs, and everyone thinks we're on dope. They might be teens, but they're our future, and they're concerned. Like the way he gives this really deep, solemn gaze at the camera when he explains this. Like I thought, oh my god, this is going to be hard hitting. Someone's going to get raped, and then we're going to have a discussion about abortion of rape babies or something like that. He seemed to like really amp it up with this fierce gaze into the camera. Very bizarre. The show's theme then hits, and we get an advert for charming, squeezably soft toilet paper. So, Matt, what did you think of this opening?
I didn't know what it was, like, because I didn't know that the Americans had skit shows like that then. I just couldn't work out what this TV show was. Like, I thought it was a piss take from the start. I was like, oh, this is the greatest satire I've ever seen. And it's like, obviously it's not at all. And it felt like I could have easily have been convinced that this was like a training video for like adults that are struggling to like communicate with their kids or something like that. Like, I just couldn't get a grasp of what it was at all. It could have been like a Sunday service church group video in parts as well. Like, it was one of the most bizarre things I've ever watched in its entirety. And all I wanted to do was like text my mum and go, "Mum, have you ever heard of this? Was this on like when you were like growing up or something like that?" It was just yeah, and it gets no better as it goes on, but it only gets better as it goes on. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I get you. Stu, what did you think of the opening introduction here?
There was this thing that came out a few years ago. It might have been an Adult Swim thing. I'm not 100% sure. It was a piss take of the opening scene from like loads of different things. Like
I know the one you mean. Yeah.
It
was a Funny or Die sketch where it was the theme tune to a TV series, and it goes on for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes, I know the one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like different sitcom, a bit like what a certain Disney Plus series should have been, really. I thought it reminded me of that. And again, I laughed through. I don't know if we were supposed to have laughed, but now you're saying that it was this kind of semi-sketch show thing that we're supposed to have laughed. I thought it was hilarious. I don't know if I thought it was hilarious in the right way, because there's some very questionable behaviour in this. But you saying it's 1981 makes a lot more sense now, because I thought, well, the picture quality is so awful that it's obviously been recorded off some Betamax of some kind. But the PNG transparent advert I've never seen before, ever. Like anything. And we watch American sports of all kinds with adverts all over the screen and everything. I've never seen this before. Never.
No, it's just truly baffling, wasn't it? So the first skit has Kevin calling someone on a payphone. Kids today will never know. He's calling someone who clearly has no idea who he is. He asks them on a date to the school dance. He describes who he says he looks like, and he says he looks like John Denver. And when this person figures out who he is, they say no to him. I actually Googled John Denver, because I know the name, but I have no idea. And he does actually look like him a bit. Cut to Nick. He's in one of those beachside gyms, sparring with the air as he describes Rocky. We get a lot of canned laughter, but honestly, I don't know what the joke is. It's a bit weird.
I was like, what he said about the meat.
It was just weird as fuck, wasn't it? Like, he was describing Rocky in a way that I have no idea what he was talking about. I've seen that film dozens of times. We get another sketch where kids try and sell their glass bottles to the store clerk. There says, all you kids think about is money, sex and drugs. And I think about it too. The trouble is I got no money, and every time I think about sex, my wife takes a drug. I did laugh at that bit. Like the store clerk, I actually thought was quite funny in this. The kids then start to blow on the bottle tops. Nick plays a comb, and girls start to make matchboxes, and some random guy is playing drums on a stack of tins. Kevin then goes to another payphone, I presume to sexually harass another young lady. Then all of the kids in this convenience store start going around dancing and taking food off the shelves. And then they all just fuck off out of it, and Crispin tells him to put everything on his tab, even though they didn't scan anything, so they don't know what they've actually taken from this store. It was really bizarre. We go back to Nick at the beach. Kevin approaches him and asks if he thinks he's good looking. And Nick says, not to me, you're not.
Yeah.
Wearing a pair of the shortest shorts you've ever seen. But to be fair, Nick looks in phenomenal shape in this. Nick gives him some advice on how to talk to chicks, then tells Kevin to go and chat up a woman who is sat reading a book. He's coming across very sex pest in this. We go back to Crispin Glover. He's moaning that as a teen, when you apply for jobs, they ask if you have experience, which if you don't have, they then say no to you. But how do you get experience when they won't give you the job in the first place? One thing they are experienced in is washing cars, and they all put in a hard day's work starting at 9 a.m. sharp. Cue a musical number. Cue Dolly Parton's 9 to 5. Nicky's wearing a pair of dungarees and a red neck. He looks like the forgotten member of Dexys Midnight Runners, but also I really want a pair of dungarees now. We get another ad break, and Kevin is sat with a head cheerleader who is now apparently his girlfriend. He fails a compatibility test in a magazine, so they break up. More jokes, and then back to Kevin on a payphone. He gets turned down by a girl, asked to speak to her sister, who also turns him down. He gets put onto another sister who turns him down. And then when he talks to the fourth sister, who agrees, she says she looks like a 10. When he asks her age, she says she's 10. I just don't get it. Crispin then dances to Talking Heads in the bodega. And then the gang sing a song about doing chores, and Nick gets turned on whilst he's doing some laundry and sees some lingerie, which I assume must be his mum's, because why would he be doing lingerie in somebody else's house? Like, it just didn't make any sense. Thankfully, we're about halfway through at this point. Matt, how are you finding it?
I mean, it's unbearable, isn't it? It's the music. So I thought like the musical numbers would tick your boxes, being into Glee and all that nonsense. but
I mean, spoiler alert, it is my good, but yeah.
it's just dreadful, isn't it? It's like it's utterly abysmal. It's one of the worst. Like the only thing stopping it being like taking Left Behind off the top spot for like the worst thing is that I don't think anybody like actually thinks it's good. Anyone that's in it or even thinks that it is good, it just exists in like a point in time. It should be put in the American history, the American Museum of History or something. This is what it was like back then. The world was shit in '81. Like it's just there was some things that made me like smirk, but because they were so bad, like the shopkeeper, like just being like a '50s gangster, his voice, and it just being weird like that. But yeah, it was just I've never seen it like. It reminded me of that. God, what was the name of that show? It wasn't Art Attack, but it was like a big comic where you had loads of different people would come out of the comic, and you had like the naughty girl with like pigtails, and you had like, what was it called, Stu? I know you know it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you. Yeah, because it was. I'm thinking splats, but that's not the word.
It's something like that though. I got Shazam in my head, but obviously it's not Shazam. But like for like those like who aren't
Zap.
around here,
Zap. Yeah.
Yes,
that's it.
yeah. It was just reminding me of Zap. It had like a Zap feel to it, or Zap was inspired by this dog shit TV show. But we never watched Zap, Andy.
No, I'm just looking at it now.
Oh my lord! No. If you want to watch something, watch Zap later on tonight.
Type in Cuthbert Lily. She's dead silly.
What the fuck? Dear God. Okay, is it on YouTube? Yes.
Yes, it is.
There's some on YouTube. Okay, we'll try and watch an episode.
We watch this nonsense for 48 minutes. You can go on Zap now as punishment.
Yeah, that's true.
The tone.
It used to be on a Friday afternoon. Zap. It was a highlight of the week. Not the start of the weekend.
Incredible. Stu, halfway through, what do you reckon?
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, the chores rap. So, if there was there is a way, but it would be so low bit rate that it would be pointless to bring back a ringtone. That would be what I'd have on for the rest of the next week because I couldn't really believe what I was seeing, which is why I was amazed by when you said 1981 because it seems like a 90s thing. It seems like a 90s piss take of what the 80s were, but it's actually being in the 80s. It's so. Thing is, I shouldn't have enjoyed. Well, I didn't enjoy it because it was awful. It was a bad experience, but I just giggled throughout the whole thing. But I don't know if I'm giggling at it or
it's the absurdity of it, isn't it? I think. Yeah.
But the weird kind of there were sketches, but they were linked together sketches, which I've never really seen before, which is strange. But it kind of worked, and like how Crispin was the only one talking to the camera as well. Like why? Until later on.
We'll get to that one.
Yeah. But the whole thing where what age was this set like aimed at? Is there any information about this? Because if it was for kids, then the sexual harassment storeman talking about sex and drugs with them is a bit suspect. I know this is pre-Rolf Harris and all that stuff, but even so, it doesn't seem like where would this is not going to go in prime time, is it? This is not going to get. Why would there be a show? I suppose you have had things like Big Bang Theory and like that 70s show come up later on, years later, about the things from the past and all that celebrated, which is basically what this was. But celebrating it at the time, not as a period thing. But maybe it was influential. Maybe that's where it's come from. Like some studio exec had this for years. And this is where all the ideas have come from.
Maybe. Yeah, so I think it was pitched at teenagers, so I think it was very much teenagers delivering to teenagers.
Mm.
But I think if I were a teenager, I would really hate this. I'd feel like I was being talked down to almost.
But it's a different time, though. You got to think
That's it, yeah.
teenager in the early 80s, which is effectively the 70s. Very different kind of vocabulary, let alone anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, potentially. I've just noticed, like, the original release date, it was actually 81 this month, on the 13th of July. If only I'd have known, we could have tied in and celebrated its birthday.
Like even our rival Cage pods haven't gone to the dedicated levels of this, have they? Surely, like they're not depraved enough to suffer this.
Only we're stupid enough. But yeah, like these sketches just aren't funny though. That's the problem with them. So like the ones with the girls that come up after like this part here, like there's ones where these girls are creaming themselves over seeing teenage boys get naked, but one of them gets like proper hot under the collar when she's describing her teacher, telling her she's a failure. Weird.
I know. So yeah, we've seen what they look like, and it's not. I presume sex education is what they were talking about. That's what I didn't understand, because they obviously look way older than they're supposed to be. Like they look about 20, like they look about college age when they're supposed to be what, 13, 14 maybe?
I think they're 16, 17, I think is how old they actually are. I think they're all around that age.
Yeah, so even with it, it's the mindset problem, I think, like we just said. I think that's why it is so weird, because it's a time capsule completely out of time with something that even we don't know.
We then see Jill, who is talking about how women wear jeans. She then imagines Crispin being helped by a woman in a clothing store, and then three of the girls sing Pat Benatar's Heartbreaker at him. In the next scene, Crispin tells Jill that he had a sex dream about her. Like, not exactly, but that's very much the undercurrent is that he painted the inside of his pyjama bottoms that night. She then tells him she doesn't want to be with him and puts him firmly in the friend zone. Nick's final sketch in this, he delivers a monologue to camera. He talks about his dad wanting him to be an army man. He's now signed up, so if there's a draft, he'll be gone. He says his mom keeps crying whenever his dad talks about Nick going to war, but his dad says it'll make a man out of him. Nick asks his dad about when he went to war in Korea, and he clams up. He won't speak. He gets this faraway look in his eye. That'll probably be the ladyboys, I reckon. In the final part of his monologue, Nick says, whenever you date a girl and mention going off to war, she gets real cuddly and affectionate. So I guess it's got its good points. This was weird. The show ends with Crispin talking about his parents meeting at a school dance. Then everyone goes inside to this dance. There's about 30 pupils at this school, not many at all. Kevin has persuaded Julie to go to the dance with him. Jill tells Crispin that she's had a dream about him, so she's been frothing at the gills about him. And then Nick is on a date with a woman and tells her that he's off to war tomorrow. Right, so usually in the next part we do the whole box office and budget, but there's none of that. Like, the internet doesn't know this thing exists. So to Letterboxd to find any reviews, because obviously there's nothing. Like, if you look on Rotten Tomatoes, it doesn't even have an entry for this. It just doesn't exist. And Amazon, like, they're not going to sell this shit, are they? So yeah, Letterboxd. Early says, let's be real, we all came here for shirtless Nick Cage flexing his biceps and teaching us how to flirt. There's also some odd singing and dancing thrown into the mix, which just adds to the general early 80s oddness. Teen Crispin Glover might also be the most normal Crispin Glover I've ever seen. Fans said, this is my High School Musical. And then we've got Mick Sanders. I had never heard of this previously, but it's a pilot episode for a variety sketch show that wasn't picked up. Nick and Crispin Glover show that in a show that has singing and dancing. Sign me up. You need to stop what you're doing and watch this on YouTube, as Nick doesn't disappoint even in his earliest role. to give some idea as to what we're dealing with, Nick has scenes wearing overalls without a shirt and scenes where he's shirtless, pumping iron in cut-off denim shorts. Film rating 1.5 out of 5. Although it's very close to so bad it's good. So, yeah, that's where we are with this one. IMDb, I'm not even going to bother asking. It's got a 5.2 out of 10. That's definitely people watching it and going, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. Or people watching it and going, this is so bad, it's the best thing I've ever seen. And nothing in between. So it's either 1s or 10s. It's got to be. Right, moving straight on to the good, the bad, and the crazy. Matt.
I mean, the good, it gave me the slightest warm feeling of nostalgia that, like, watching the Weezer video for Buddy Holly gives, I suppose. I mean, I'm clutching at straws here. It's short in length is a plus. The bad is its mere existence, but also, like, you can tell it's from a time long, long ago. All the women care about is that they want to be married, and that's about it. Like their skit scenes, apart from the girl in the band, and even then, she's being the result of some, sexism. They're just like all they care about is which wedding they're going to have. It's a bit stereotypical, isn't it, of like what a woman is in the 80s, I guess. And the crazy is that throughout all of this, I felt maybe it's this whole Normandy thing from last week's episode, but I felt a twang of pain for Nick talking about going off to war, and I was like, oh man, this guy's really feeling it. So for something that is absolutely brain dead as this is, I did feel a slight twang of pain for him.
Got you in the feels, at least. Stu, what about yourself?
What was the war that because he was saying the war might not happen?
Well, I assumed it was Vietnam, but when Vietnam was the 70s, wasn't it?
Yeah, Vietnam was long gone. Like he spoke about El Salvador.
Yeah, which I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that's a thing. I mean, that's a fucking Jamie T song, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah, so that was my crazy. That there was something in here which is so much of a time capsule. I don't even know if it, like, at first glance, was it just made up for the sake of it? I don't know.
Potentially.
I never heard of it before. I mean, the bad is obviously not so much it exists, because I'm kind of glad that it does, because these things are all, like we said earlier, finding these little treasure troves of things that was never meant to be is kind of interesting. But the picture quality, just why is it this bad? We've seen pilots before, and yeah, they're terrible. But at least that you don't have to put them on a tablet the other side of the room to get by. It's just I know it's better to have it like this than not at all, which is debatable, I suppose. But it's just really bad. The good, I mean, I don't know why this was so. I enjoyed this so much. It is very much in a Room kind of way that it's so atrociously bad. It's funny for reasons that it probably shouldn't be. It has got that whole thing about the nostalgia that you kind of remember that you never actually had. Like you saw so much of it, and like Biker Grove and Grange Hill here, that school was actually never like that. Really, it was completely.
Could you imagine, like you mentioned before about an American version of this podcast, and they had to watch Biker fucking Grove or something? Like, how bizarre that would come across to them.
Yeah, and then the two people from that went on to be the biggest entertainers in the country, watching people eating bollocks every November. And that's where we are. But it was. I mean, I'm glad it was 48 minutes, and I did enjoy it because it was strangely, oddly entertaining. The musical bit, I mean, the Chores rap, I laughed properly at that.
Yeah.
And for 81, it does seem weirdly ahead of its time. I swear that people must have seen this. This is why it's been held hostage for so long, because this is where ideas have come from. I'm telling you now.
That's it. They use this to base the AI on that is going to write all the scripts that are going to make billions of dollars in the future. So apparently, there was a war in Salvador, a civil war that the US was sort of involved in. They invaded in the 80s and 60s. So I'm guessing that's what it's in relation to. But I'm not reading Wikipedia to go any deeper into that. But so there is some semblance of something there. But even so, that was a fucking weird monologue that he gave. So the old fella who ran the bodega, that was Jackie Mason, who is something of a American comedic legend. I did genuinely laugh at a couple of his jokes. He had good comic delivery, which I think you can tell, especially when compared to these kids who had no clue what they were doing when it came to acting for the majority of it. Also, I did enjoy the 9 to 5 cover just because I love Dolly. So, yeah, I guess why not? It was just bizarre that a group of kids were singing about the mundane drudgery of the Monday to Friday 9 to 5 when they're in school most of the time. That was a bit strange. The bad, where do you start? It was terrible. 48 minutes was too long for this. This has taken me longer than it's taken other films to watch. It's taken me 3 days to get through all of this because I had to keep stopping it, and it was mind-numbing in parts. It was so bad. The comedy there was no comedy. It wasn't funny. It tried to be this very Americana-y 80s show that appealed to everybody, and ultimately I assumed that it appealed to nobody, and that's why it didn't get picked up. But I did think you could probably see the actors. You can see the ones who went on to have a career in Glover and Cage. You could see that they were miles ahead of everyone else in that. The way the others just mumbled through their lines or spoke over each other, that they were terrible. They were such bad actors. You can see why they didn't go on to have the career that the other two had. So, that was very much a thing, I thought. Speaking of scripting, though, it was insulting. Matt was 100% right. The way that the women were portrayed in this, it was proper fucking stereotypically nauseating, airheaded bimbo-y in parts. It was massively chauvinistic as well. Like, the guys didn't come across very well in this. They were just complete horny little chipmunks throughout the whole thing. I know, we all had those things when we were that age, but we also had football and stuff to take our mind off it. It came across terribly on both sides of the gender divide there. It was terrible. And I've got nothing for this because it just wasn't that interesting. So I've stolen it from a different film. So apparently when Nicolas Cage was filming The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, the scenes that he was filming with Tiffany Haddish, she refused to look him in the eye. She just couldn't look at him. And Nick was getting really wound up with this. So he ended up just having to sit down with her and have it out, and was like, what's going on? Why aren't you acting with me? And she just said, right, okay, I've got a story to tell you. And once I've told you, it's fine, and we'll just move on. And apparently she went on a first date in the 90s, and her boyfriend at the time took her to see Face Off. Whilst they were in the cinema, it was an empty cinema. So, as Matt pointed out last week with our friends who sat near us in No Hard Feelings, stuff happened whilst they were in the cinema. And her boyfriend had wet fingers, and as she orgasmed, she opened her eyes and Nicolas Cage was just staring back at her. So, she said that she couldn't look at him when she first met him because all she could think was this utter embarrassment of what happened way back when. How weird would it be for your first orgasm to have Nicolas Cage just fucking staring daggers into your eyes? Especially that version of Nick Cage from Face Off as well. So yeah, that's my crazies from something completely different. So did you enjoy this film? Did you enjoy it? Would you recommend people to watch it on the proviso that it was fun, at least? Stu?
Yeah, both. I mean, I already this afternoon forwarded the YouTube thing to quite a few people saying this is ridiculous. It's only 48 minutes long. Just watch the first 10 minutes of it, just to see him with a Rocky thing. I mean, this is what you're getting into, but it's weird. But again, it's not inoffensive, and if you're watching it while you're having your lunch break or something at work, it's something stupid to watch on your phone, which is probably the better idea than trying to watch it on telly, then yeah, why not? You can do worse things, but do better things as well. But I enjoyed it in the wrong ways. But it is in no way, any shape or form good.
Matt, would you recommend it? I mean, I'm guessing you're going to say no, you didn't enjoy it.
I didn't enjoy it, but I thoroughly recommend it. Like, as in, everybody should watch it to just have a laugh at it and like appreciate how good they've got it now. I guess this is like a heed of warning to the younger generation. You know what I mean? Like the people that have died before us to give us the hope for today. You should watch this. Yeah, I mean, no, it's fucking terrible, isn't it? Let's be honest. But yeah, people should watch it though, just to have a bit of a laugh at it, not with it.
Oh yeah, I'd say watch. I'd say watch it because there are bits that are just bafflingly weird, but I did laugh several times at it. Like the first 20 minutes, I think, watch it and then make sure you watch that Cage monologue because it is something else. It's just weird as fuck. So I would say watch it, but I can't say I didn't enjoy it. I didn't take anything away from it other than this is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So
you know what?
Yeah,
Can we? There's no rights to this, is there? So we could trim that monologue down and just tweet it out.
yeah, I assume we could actually. I mean, I think someone has already like trimmed down Nick Cage's performance from that. It's just like a 3-minute video of everything Nick did in this. So I can have a look, or if not, I could probably use screen grab or something off your phone, and put it out on Twitter. But I don't know because it goes on for fucking ages as well. That monologue does. So I know with Twitter it does like narrow how much video you can put out. So I don't know if we'd be able to do it fully, but we might be able to do a link to the YouTube at least.
Someone put a whole film on there last week.
Yeah, but them dickheads pay for Twitter Blue, don't they? So that's why they can do it. That's the difference. Us normal chuds, we've got to suffer with 1 minute 20 videos or whatever it is. So based on this pilot film, TV, whatever, was Nicolas Cage good or was Nicolas Cage bad? Matt?
He was good. He genuinely was good. Like he was. If he was trying to play like this jock arsehole character, which he was, and he was meant, and they told him, right, listen, we're going to send you to the future, and we want you to act like Johnny Bravo. And that was the brief. He absolutely nailed it. Like, I can see the future. I could see him being the Nick Cage that we love, or trying to find out if we love, more in this than Valley Girls.
Yeah, completely agree. There are elements of Crazy Cage in this, which is weird. Mm-hmm. You can see his progression, that he's like starting on the road to becoming the Nick Cage that he is. Yeah, I completely agree. Stu?
I was going to say, talk about Valley Girl, obviously, but in a better way, that there was bits of that character in this,
it's
in a way.
That's what it is.
Yeah, but it was. I mean, the Johnny Bravo thing, he's perfect. Yeah, he definitely is. Again, the ideas have all come from this thing. It's the catalyst of Hollywood. This discovery. This is the Adam's rib of modern cinema. So, yeah. He was good though. He was by far and away the best thing about this, which is obviously we're not saying a lot, but he did what he had to do, and he did it well, and it was funny, and it was odd at the same time. So yeah, of course it was. It was good.
Yeah, I am in agreement. To be fair, like I can see in another life, in another time, he could have been AC Slater. In saying
Yeah.
that. Like I completely get it. He had that dumb but funny cocky jock thing down. He did really well with it. Like the only thing holding him back really from that was the teeth. They were not in good condition. They were not in tip top Nick shape as they go to be in like maybe 3 years' time. It doesn't take long, but yeah. And he does deliver that monologue well. Like it's not his fault that monologue is terribly written. He does a very good job with what he's got there. So I can't believe I'm going to say it, but yeah, he was good in this. I feel like
getting
I'm
a clean sweep for this.
it's unbelievable. I think we've just broken to the point now where every film, like, yeah, he was great. Yeah, we've watched too much, I think. But yeah, incredible. Right, so finally, if you enjoyed the best of times, you may also like Stu.
I mean, mine was going to be Saved by the Bell, where you just mentioned, which is obviously what this was. Again, it's obviously came from this. Saved by the Bell is inspired by this film thing. But since we've already mentioned it, it's a bit later on, but St. Elmo's Fire,
Okay, yeah.
a little bit more serious, but you could imagine the characters in this a few years later going to college and it being them with the kind of relationship that they seem to have in the short time that we knew them.
That's a good call, that was. Matt, what have you got?
I've got nothing for you. Like I tried to find something. Like I keep leaning back to sketch shows, and a sketch show I'm really enjoying is Mitchell and Webb Look. For the peep show reason, that's literally it. Like if you stumble across this and you want to like watch like a British sketch show, there are loads. You know what I mean? Like Fastlane and stuff like that, and there's loads of sketch shows, but that's what I'm really enjoying at the moment. But yeah, this was like unusual, and I'm not going to say like original and unique. It was unusual, like an odd flavor of crisps, a limited edition. Like it was strange and not something that I want. If you did enjoy this, like legitimately enjoyed it, think it was actually good. You got more problems than this podcast, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've also gone down the same route. Like, the only thing I could think of was sketch shows. There was one I remember that they brought it on to Nickelodeon when it first came to UK shores, and it was called "You Can't Do That on Television."
Oh yeah, I remember that.
It was sort of like if a bunch of 12-year-olds wrote Saturday Night Live in Canada. It was very much that sort of feel. I remember there was a sketch where someone was popping a pimple into the mirror, and then the mirror just got coated in this white goo, like a ridiculous amount. It was that sort of humour. So I think if you enjoyed this, you probably enjoyed that. It was very crass, very silly, but it was much funnier than this. So I think that would be a bit more. Yeah, you'd get more out of that than you would this, because this was just nonsense, but in the best way possible.
I also meant the fast show, not the fast lane. I'm getting my WWE pay-per-views and my.
Yeah. I was trying to think. I was like, it's this really cool new show that I've never fucking heard of before. I'm gonna have to check that out. Right, okay, that's another Nick Cage film in the record books, I guess. If you've seen this one, and like, just get in contact. So I genuinely want to know if anyone's seen this before, or if you want to see it off the back of this conversation. I will put the YouTube link in the notes. I will make a note now that it will be in the notes of this episode as well, so that if you do want to see it, it's there for you to watch. And as Stu pointed out, so I'll try and put out a link on the Twitter for that monologue as well, if it's available to us. But yeah, get in contact on the socials at Cage Fighting Pod, or emails to cagefightingpod@gmail.com. Please make sure you subscribe on whatever podcatcher you listen to us on. And whilst you're there, please leave a review, and we will love you forever. So finally, thank you very much for giving us your time once again this week. We truly appreciate it. So for this week, Matthew, would you like to say goodbye?
Take it easy, everybody. Look after yourselves. Check in on your pals. Have a great week ahead.
Stuart, would you like to say goodbye?
Hit smash, make it all bloody, of course. Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me, and remember, be excellent to each other.